Imagine the world in the late 18th century, a time of tumultuous change and revolution, particularly in France. This is the world that Napoleon Bonaparte was born into. Our tale begins in the late 1700s, an era that saw the world in flux. In France, the winds of change were blowing with a particular ferocity. The French Revolution, a radical upheaval that forever altered the course of history, was in full swing. The monarchy had been toppled, the guillotine was busy, and the cries for liberty, equality, and fraternity echoed through the streets. Meanwhile, the nation's economy teetered on the brink of collapse. A crippling national debt, coupled with widespread poverty, cast a long, dark shadow over the land. The people of France, weary of their hardships and hungry for change, were ripe for a new order. Amid this social unrest, political factions vied for control, each promising a brighter future. The stage was set for someone with the right blend of ambition, charisma, and cunning to seize the moment. Enter Napoleon Bonaparte, a young man from Corsica. His origins were modest, his stature diminutive, but his aspirations were anything but small. His keen intellect, combined with his formidable military prowess, set him apart from his peers. He was a man of vision, a man who saw not just what was, but what could be. He was a man shaped by the turbulent times he lived in, but also a man who would, in turn, shape the course of history. Napoleon Bonaparte was not just a product of his time, he was a force that would redefine it. So, as the 18th century drew to a close, amidst the upheaval, the instability, and the thirst for change, a star was rising on the horizon, a star that would shine brightly, casting long shadows and leaving an indelible mark on the world. In this fertile ground of chaos and opportunity, a young Napoleon Bonaparte sets his eyes on a lofty prize: power. Let us delve into the fascinating journey of Napoleon Bonaparte, a man whose name continues to echo through the corridors of history. Born to a minor noble family in Corsica, Napoleon's journey to power was anything but ordinary. This young Corsican, born as Napoleon Bonaparte, would later be known to the world as Napoleon Bonaparte, a name that would echo through the annals of history. Napoleon's early life was marked by a relentless pursuit of education and military training. His family's noble status, albeit minor, granted him access to France's elite schools. At just 9 years old, he was sent to a religious school in mainland France, where he quickly mastered the French language and developed a fascination for history, particularly military history. His keen intellect and ambition led him to the prestigious École Militaire in Paris, where he trained to become an artillery officer. His military prowess began to shine early in his career. Napoleon was just 24 when he showcased his strategic brilliance at the siege of Toulon, a significant revolt against the French Republic. His strategic use of artillery led to a decisive victory, earning him a promotion to brigadier general. This was a turning point for Napoleon, marking his swift rise in the military ranks and setting the stage for his future conquests. But Napoleon's rise to power wasn't solely due to his military victories. His political acumen played a significant role as well. As the French Revolution unfolded, Napoleon saw an opportunity. He aligned himself with the Jacobins, a radical political group, and played a crucial role in ousting the royalist forces threatening the young French Republic during the 13 Vendémiaire. Yet it was the coup of 18 Brumaire that catapulted him to ultimate power. The Directory, the governing body of France at the time, was deeply unpopular and ineffective. Napoleon, along with his allies, orchestrated a coup that overthrew the Directory and established a new government, the Consulate, with Napoleon as its first consul. This effectively made him the leader of France, positioning him one step closer to the throne. Napoleon's rise wasn't just about military victories or political maneuvering, though. He understood the power of public image. He used newspapers to shape public opinion, commissioned paintings to portray him heroically, and even orchestrated a grand ceremony to crown himself as emperor, solidifying his status in the eyes of the French people and the world. With a combination of military genius, political savvy, and masterful use of propaganda, Napoleon was ready to claim the throne of France. His rise to power was remarkable, a perfect storm of opportunity, ambition, and sheer force of will. But as we'll see in the next chapter, his reign as emperor would be just as eventful, filled with grand achievements and equally grand challenges. In 1804, Napoleon crowns himself Emperor of the French, marking the start of a new era in French history. Napoleon Bonaparte, a man of humble Corsican origins, ascends to the pinnacle of French power. His reign, though not without controversy, is characterized by a series of reforms and innovations that forever alter the French landscape. Napoleon's administrative reforms are among his most notable achievements. He instigates a centralized administrative machinery, streamlining governance across France. The introduction of the prefecture system allows for efficient administration of the regions. It's a testament to the effectiveness of these reforms that they remain in place today, over 2 centuries later. But perhaps Napoleon's most enduring legacy is the establishment of the Napoleonic Code. A comprehensive set of civil laws, the Code is a bold endeavor to unify French law and abolish feudalism. It enshrines principles such as the equality of all citizens before the law, the right to choose one's profession, and the protection of private property. Despite its limitations, most notably in the areas of women's rights and slavery, the Napoleonic Code profoundly shapes the legal systems of many countries far beyond the borders of France. Napoleon's reign is also characterized by an ambitious military campaign across Europe. He revolutionizes warfare with his strategic brilliance and innovative tactics. The Grande Armée, a force to be reckoned with, sweeps across the continent, toppling monarchies and establishing French dominance. From the sun-drenched plains of Italy to the icy vastness of Russia, Napoleon's forces leave an indelible mark. The Battle of Austerlitz, often hailed as Napoleon's greatest victory, showcases his military genius. Outnumbered by the combined forces of Russia and Austria, Napoleon uses deceptive tactics to lure the enemy into a trap. He delivers a crushing defeat, effectively dissolving the Holy Roman Empire and establishing French power in Central Europe. Even as his armies march across Europe, Napoleon is remarkably attentive to domestic affairs. He promotes education, establishing the University of France and numerous secondary schools. He also supports the arts and sciences, recognizing their importance in fostering national pride and unity. Despite his military prowess and administrative acumen, Napoleon's reign is not without its challenges. His ambitious continental system aimed at crippling Britain's economy backfires, causing economic hardship at home. His decision to invade Russia proves disastrous, marking a turning point in his fortunes. Yet these setbacks do not diminish the impact of Napoleon's reign. His influence extends far beyond his lifetime, shaping the course of history. His legal and administrative reforms continue to underpin French governance. The Napoleonic Code, despite its flaws, remains a cornerstone of civil law across the globe. His military strategies are studied in war colleges, his victories and defeats serving as lessons in strategy and hubris. Napoleon's reign, marked by both innovation and expansion, forever changed the course of history. His legacy, a complex tapestry of triumphs and failures, continues to inspire and provoke debate. As we delve deeper into the life of this extraordinary individual, we are reminded of the indelible mark he left on the world. A man of contradictions, Napoleon Bonaparte remains a towering figure, his shadow looming large over the annals of history. But power often casts a long shadow, and Napoleon's reign was no exception. Napoleon Bonaparte, while celebrated for his strategic prowess and administrative reforms, was not without his dark side. His rule was marred by controversial decisions, actions that hinted at a ruthless pursuit of power and a blatant disregard for the human cost of his ambitions. One of the most significant criticisms of Napoleon's rule revolves around his conduct during wars. The Napoleonic Wars, a series of conflicts initiated by Napoleon, lasted for over a decade and spanned across Europe. These wars were marked by instances of war crimes, particularly in the treatment of prisoners of war and civilian populations. The siege of Jaffa in 1799, for instance, saw Napoleon's forces massacre thousands of Ottoman prisoners in cold blood, a chilling testament to the lengths he would go to secure victory. Beyond the battlefield, Napoleon's rule was also marked by the suppression of revolts and dissent. The whiff of grape shot, a violent response to a popular revolt in 1795, is a prime example. Napoleon used cannon fire to quell the uprising, leaving hundreds dead and cementing his reputation as a strong man, willing to use force to maintain order. Perhaps the most devastating aspect of Napoleon's rule, however, was the impact of his wars on civilian populations. His continental system and economic warfare strategy against Britain resulted in widespread economic hardship and discontent among the civilian populations of Europe. This blockade was not only unsuccessful in defeating Britain, but also led to the starvation and suffering of millions of people across the continent. Moreover, the Peninsular War, a conflict in Spain and Portugal, saw Napoleon's forces engage in brutal repression and looting, leading to immense civilian casualties and devastation. This war, characterized by Napoleon's scorched earth policy, showed the extent to which he was willing to sacrifice civilian lives for his military objectives. However, it's crucial to understand that these acts were part of a broader context of power politics and warfare during the era. While they do not absolve Napoleon of his actions, they add a layer of complexity to his rule. Napoleon's reign was a time of great change marked by both progress and devastation. His actions and decisions, while controversial, shaped the course of history and left an indelible mark on Europe. Napoleon's rule, while marked by significant advancements, also had its fair share of atrocities. As we delve deeper into the life and times of Napoleon Bonaparte, we must not shy away from exploring these darker aspects of his rule. They serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of ambition and the often blurred lines between heroism and villainy in the annals of history. The tide of fortune, however, is ever changing. For Napoleon, it began to turn against him. When one imagines the invincible conqueror Napoleon Bonaparte, it's hard to picture his downfall. Yet even the mightiest can stumble, and the emperor was no exception. The first sign of trouble came with the ill-fated invasion of Russia in 1812. Napoleon, overconfident and seemingly unstoppable, led his grand army of over 500,000 men into the vast, cold expanse of Russia. But the Russian winter proved a formidable adversary. The Russians employed a scorched earth policy, burning their own lands to deprive the French army of supplies. The Grand Army was decimated, losing men not to battle but to cold, hunger and disease. From 500,000, a mere 20,000 returned, marking a turning point in Napoleon's fortunes. The disaster in Russia was a wake-up call for the rest of Europe. Seeing Napoleon's vulnerability, other nations began to reassess their alliances. The tide of sentiment shifted, and what was once a seemingly invincible French empire started to crumble under the weight of its own ambition. In the face of this mounting opposition, Napoleon's military genius shone through one last time in his return from exile during the 100 Days. Yet his audacious comeback was short-lived. The Battle of Waterloo, where he faced off against the Duke of Wellington, was to be his final stand. The battle was fierce and bloody, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. But in the end, the combined forces of Britain and Prussia proved too much for Napoleon's weary troops. The once great emperor was defeated and forced to abdicate the throne for the second and final time. Defeated, Napoleon was exiled to Saint Helena, where he spent the final years of his life. On this remote island in the South Atlantic, far from the power and splendor he once knew, Napoleon lived out his days. He spent his time writing his memoirs and reflecting on his past glories and mistakes. And it was here in 1821 that Napoleon Bonaparte, once the most powerful man in Europe, died a lonely death. Napoleon's fall from power serves as a stark reminder of the fleeting nature of glory and the dangers of unchecked ambition. His story is a testament to the fact that power, no matter how absolute, is always transient. His downfall marked the end of an era, and his legacy continues to shape our understanding of history. In the grand tapestry of history, Napoleon's fall is as significant as his rise. It marked the end of the Napoleonic era and set the stage for a new chapter in European history. The fall of Napoleon Bonaparte, a tale of ambition, power, and the inevitable downfall, a story that continues to captivate centuries after the final curtain fell.